And I'm going to hand over now to Jake, who has been a facilitator for phase 1, if you like, semester 1 of the modules. So you see our program here. I'll hand over to you, Jake, to give us some detail on the actual masters. And I'm here for questions at the end if you need me. Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine. Yeah, so I'm Jake Byrne, an assistant professor in Trinity College as well. And as Catherine said, I've been involved in phase 1 so far, which is what I'll describe what we mean by phase 1s, but essentially they are semesters. So there's 3 phases in the program. What I'm going to cover first is sort of the master's program, sort of at a practical, in terms of practical information, then a little bit more detail about the program, followed by just sort of potential student profiles, potential career paths and opportunities. And then I'll sort of talk a bit about the structure of the masters, as we sort of have mentioned there. Next slide, please. So the title of the masters is a Masters in Global Challenges for Sustainability. The starting date is going to be September 2022. The duration is sort of a full-time program of 18 months. So there will be a summer break in between sort of phases 2 and 3. It's 90 credits in total. The official language is in English. The application deadline is the 8th of March. The model of delivery is blended sort of hybrid, and I'll sort of talk a little bit more about that as well when I'm sort of talking about the learning experience. And the website is www.charm-eu.eu. So they're the sort of practical information that you might need. Next slide, please. So in terms of the sort of graduate attributes that we sort of talked about what we hope students will be able to achieve after they've completed this master's program. So those are things like developing creative and critical thinking skills, sort of research and evaluate complex societal challenges from different stakeholders and intercultural perspectives, to assess and integrate different disciplinary and transdisciplinary knowledge and research methodologies, demonstrate expertise in the identification and application of the latest technological tools to source, analyze, handle, use, and communicate complex bodies of data ethically, acquire expertise and communicate effectively on very complex issues, formulate an advanced understanding of transdisciplinarity and demonstrate expertise in the facilitative, communicative, reflexive, and collaborative skills to support its practice, and acquire advanced transversal competencies in problem solving, entrepreneurialism, innovation, digital skills, and a lifelong learning disposition. So there's definitely a crossover between those various different graduate attributes, but we hope to develop those capacities in students on completion of the program. Next slide, please. So in terms of sort of the student profiles, now, we're really looking for a very, very diverse group of students to engage on the program. So I think we've been quite successful in the first iteration of having quite a diverse group. But sort of examples of disciplinary backgrounds, and this is definitely not limited to. So if your discipline doesn't appear here, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't engage in the program. But things like sustainability studies, engineering, and that can be mechanical, civil, electronic, and so on. Social sciences, philosophy, design, journalism, communications, natural sciences, psychology, business studies, history, computer science, and health sciences as well, including medicine and pharmacology and so on. So there is representation from many of these disciplines already in the first iteration of the program, and it's great actually to see the different disciplines come together and the students bringing their background to the challenges that they're engaging on. So that's a big part of what we think we need in order to solve the Sustainable Development Goals and to sort of truly implement the European Green Deal that has been put forth. Is we need a diversity of perspectives. Next slide, please. So in terms of career opportunities, again, these aren't exhaustive, but these are sort of types of potential career opportunities that we've sort of identified. Now, again, in many ways as well, a lot of the jobs and careers perhaps that you'll get from or potentially go into may not even exist yet. So we're looking forward to a world of sort of change as well. So, and the idea is to prepare our graduates for that changing world as well. So it may be that there's new job opportunities that arise. But sort of 4 potential postgraduate sort of student pathways are sustainable policy and communication roles. So that might be sort of looking in the sort of policy space, for example. social innovation and action, either within existing companies. So that might be entrepreneurship. So you might go and get employed within an existing company, and you implement your sort of social innovation skills and competencies within that organization, or potentially to create your own enterprises. So that would be entrepreneurship opportunities as well. So it's applying your skills to the creation of a new business, for example. You might become a manager, with the ability to deal with complex issues from sustainability perspectives, and to advise company senior management on sustainability matters. So that's maybe more sort of looking at sustainability within the company rather than necessarily just the sort of innovation aspect. And then there will be opportunities as well to progress further along the academic pathway. So perhaps maybe you want to go on, might do a PhD in an area. And we're even actually looking at currently, at the moment we haven't finalized on it, but we are looking at this particularly for the future of Charm EU as well, is potential for doctoral education in this space as well. So being part of this at the moment, it could be an interesting time to engage in that. And next slide, please. So again, to sort of building on that, rather than sort of these sort of the broader sort of areas, what would those titles might be? So they could be sort of sustainability specialist, a communication specialist, a social innovation analyst, a sustainability entrepreneur, project manager, international consultant, researcher, or various different academic positions. So those might be maybe sort of job titles as opposed to sort of general areas. Next slide, please. So this is the general sort of structure of the masters. So it's split into three phases, and so basically each one of those is like a semester in the sort of traditional sort of understanding of things. So phase one is the preparatory phase. So this will have 3 modules in it. It'll have a module in sustainability, social innovation, and transdisciplinary research. So those are the 3 modules that make up phase one. So it's really important here to understand that that's actually quite a transversal sort of skills development phase, where we'll give you experience of sort of challenge-based learning, and to get to grips with some of the sort of the content and knowledge in this space, but also the skills that you'll need as well for the phases that follow as well. And it's also an opportunity because we have such diverse students coming together, it's an opportunity for everybody to sort of get a base level of understanding and a common knowledge and language almost, so to speak, and practice before moving on to the next phases as well. So phase two, a student will select one of sort of 3 various different themes to study on. So the options are water, another is food, and the final one is life and health. So the students will choose that, and there's usually a mobility as well as part of that, but that'll be discussed later on. But students will usually move from where they studied in phase one to where they're maybe studying in phase two, and that's is much more detailed content, and we're actually going to get some presentations from our colleagues from each of those themes to go deeper into that. So I won't go into it, but that'll be where you'll get a little bit more focused content in specific areas. And then phase 3 is the capstone. So this is where you'll work on a sustainability challenge in collaboration with extra academic actors and members from the wider society, as well as working together actually in teams as well of student teams on these challenges. And that's really to sort of develop the sort of transdisciplinary approach that is sort of central to this master's. And we're actually going to have a presentation. I think Marianica is going to give us a little bit more information around the capstone. So I won't spoil that for now. So that's a quick overview of the program. But again, if you've got any questions on that, please do put them into the chat. I'm also going to just briefly talk a little bit about the learning experience of the masters as well. So we have these Charm EU educational principles. So these are a number of different principles that we have, and that was sort of are in every part of the Charm education. So the core one at the center really is transdisciplinarity. So this is where we bring multiple stakeholders and disciplines, and they engage within the actual the challenges that you might engage in. So up in the top right there, you'll see sort of challenge driven. So obviously we've sort of mentioned that before, and the CH in Charm stands for that aspect of our educational principles. So that means that you will be engaging in sort of authentic challenges within your studies. As well as that, it's be research-led and research-based, so it'll be research sort of informed in many ways. Sustainability will be a core element. It'd be student-centered. So again, I think that maybe reflects a little bit back to what Catherine was sort of saying about our transparency. So we'd like to have an open dialogue with students about how you're progressing. And you'll sort of see as well, there's other approaches that we've taken to try to have a student-centered approach. Inclusivity as well. So we try to have a diverse sort of set of assessments and ways of presenting the information and engaging with the information. But if you have a specific sort of set of requirements, the teaching teams are very open to discussing that with you. Transversal skills. So I sort of mentioned that before, you know, the preparatory phase in phase 1 is very much about developing those transversal skills. But the assessment methods as well sort of really build on that, because they're around competencies, and we have a competency framework that you essentially have to, that's how assessment works, is building those transversal skills through competencies. There's also transnational and intercultural learning. So obviously the mobility will play a big part in that. Both, you know, you'll have sort of experiences both in the classroom in terms of engaging with different sort of cultures, and also potentially stakeholders from different countries and so on. But also the mobility will bring sort of informal learning as well with regards to that as well. So if you're traveling to a different country, you get to experience elements of that. It'll be technology enhanced. So obviously, you know, we're using Teams at the moment. This is the platform that we actually use to deliver the program. And then also situated and authentic learning. So we want to try to, and that sort of feeds a little bit back to the sort of student-centered, is we want you to sort of bring yourselves to the projects as well. So you are have some choice in engaging around the sort of what challenges are you're going to cover as well. So it might be through a dialogue with stakeholders or the teaching team, but it creates opportunity for you to actually bring your own interests to the challenges that you engage in. So these are the sort of, you know, this is the philosophy behind our European University. And, you know, it supports every element of the educational experience that we have. So what students can expect is an active and interactive teaching and learning. So we very much sort of, you know, have either you working with peers, you know, either remotely or in the classroom, and, you know, working on projects a lot of the time. So that's really where the engagement of authentic problems comes in, is that, you know, you'll be given problems to deal with, and you'll sort of have to learn on you know, by working yourselves through those problems. So yeah, so we have a unique assessment approach. Like I mentioned, we're not teaching to a test, and so we got a programmatic assessment approach to assessment. So that'll be lots of sort of you know, small sort of low stakes assessments that you be provision a lot of feedback, and that's, you know, guidance on feedback on personal and professional growth. So there's a portfolio that you'll have, and the feedback will be provided on that, and that'll help you with that sort of that growth throughout the program. You'll also be provided with a mentor throughout the program to sort of help you, guide you through that process. And then we'll obviously have intercultural interactions, both from staff and students and stakeholders. And there'll be a lot of sort of, you know, self-study and group work to gain the sort of content knowledge and almost get the practical experiences. So you'll be working a lot with peers and the staff in many different ways through the program. Next slide, please. So yeah, like I mentioned, we want sort of real life challenges. So, you know, they need to be global, real world and authentic challenges. So this aligns with our sort of challenge-based learning, as it's called. So the important part here is that we want to try to have a variety of actors involved. So you might even seek out stakeholders to engage within the challenge, or we might actually start off with some stakeholders to you know, engage with in defining those challenges. It really depends on whereabouts we are in the process, whether it's phase 1 or the capstone or so on. You know, a tangible output, such as a process, idea, or solution. So you know, each challenge, it has its own sort of you know, requirements or potential outputs. So we're not set on what the solution should be or what the type of output should be, and it's more so selecting the appropriate output for the appropriate challenge as well. So this is something that's where you know, it's complex, these problems, so we can't predefine them. And again, like we said, you know, you'd be engaging with teachers and students and external stakeholders as partners within these challenges as well. So it'll be engaging, and that's part of the transversal skills development as well, is actually how do you manage everyone's perspectives, and that's something that's quite challenging, but I think quite rewarding as well. And next slide, please. So like these are potential themes. Now, no point, these are just like examples. There's these aren't written down that these have to be the ones, but it could be things like obesity, loneliness, pandemics, very topical, privacy and data ethics, diabetes, inclusive teaching, poverty, addiction, cancer, climate change, rise of water levels, housing shortages, depression, and burnout. Yeah, and like we've had other things like microgreens and urban farming in student challenges already this year. So other areas can always emerge at any time. So next slide, please. So we try to bring as much sort of teaching innovation as we can into our teaching and learning. I think many of that is trying to turn the situations where we actually have you in the classroom into as much of an interactive sessions as possible. And this is facilitated, through like we have it, in possibly like in the first week, you might engage with us in a sustainability game, for example, and everything is mediated through sort of this sort of a hybrid delivery format where we use Microsoft Teams, but we also try to augment that as well with various different technologies for engaging with you, so that's you're not just sitting listening to a lecture, and if you can do that through a recording, you can, but then we look at different ways, and then as well we've sort of tried to bring in as many sort of top experts in fields as we can, to give you that sort of domain knowledge that you might need in certain areas. So you won't necessarily be hearing from the same lecturers week on week. You might have sort of core teaching staff in some of the modules, but they'll be bringing in sort of guest experts as well in fields to give you sort of specific sort of domain knowledge or expertise into the learning experience. Next slide, please. So this is an example of one of the hybrid learning spaces that we have. So each campus has at least one of these, and I think we've got a few now. We're actually, as we're expanding, we have a number of them. But the idea is that the students will go to their location, but they'll actually connect in with their peers on the other campuses, and some of the teams can actually be formed across the various different campuses. So you'll actually interact with your peers in different types of formats. So some of the activities will be local, some of them will be with peers from across Europe at the same time. But in terms of when if there's a session on, like a lecture or a workshop or a tutorial or something like that, it will be usually broadcast and led by usually from one location, but it can be from two locations, and the students connect from each of the campuses, and you can ask questions live and so on. Press that. Next slide, please. Next slide. Nope. But I might just speak to the next slide because I don't want to slow things down because we're tight on time. So I've already sort of covered on some of the content. So it's going to be very collaborative with peers. So you will work a lot. And I think one of the benefits there is the diversity of students that are actually engaged in the program. So you'll be working with lots of different disciplines and backgrounds. And what we want you to do is sort of to build on that and share those experiences, but also then grow yourself as well beyond maybe that disciplinary perspective that you've come from. And yeah, we'll have sort of lots of different sort of social intercultural activities available to students. So that brings me actually to the end of my sort of quite description of the learning experience. If we get the slides back, I believe I'm going to pass you over to Sergio, my colleague Sergio, to talk a little bit about transversal skills. So myself and Sergio actually worked on the transdisciplinary research module together.
Yeah. I'm here waiting for the slides. Thank you, Jay, for your words and for passing me the word. Is this are the slides coming or?
I can try to share slides maybe.
Okay. Yeah, it should come, but I don't know.
Well, I can start by explaining that I'm going to speak about the transversal skills. And these transversal skills, as Jake has already explained, are in the phase 1, so the first semester. The first 4 months, all the students are gonna do the same modules, so they are not going to be divided. All the students are going to do the same, and it's divided in 3 modules: transdisciplinary research, social innovation, and sustainability. And these are the 3 transversal skills to which the master is focusing. So as you can see here, phase 1 is devoted to sustainability, transdisciplinary research, and social innovation, which are the 3 modules in which this phase is divided. So in the next slide, you will see that for us, sustainability has a broad definition, a definition that is not only referred to ecological dimensions of sustainability, but is expanded to also social dimensions. That's why we are referring all the time to the SDGs, to the Social Development Goals, in which we are going to speak also about gender equality, education, poverty reduction, and so on. So after this sustainability module, the next module is going to be the transdisciplinary research. We had a question in the chat that which was the difference between interdisciplinary research and transdisciplinary research. And the difference, we can see the explanation on this slide. Interdisciplinary research is when you do the research with different disciplines. So if we refer to this picture, we see that each discipline is a different vegetable in a salad. So when we have different disciplines, what we get is a salad, if it's multidisciplinarity. If they change, if they inter-exchange concepts and methodologies, we can have even a soup. But when we do transdisciplinarity is when we include in this research process external stakeholders coming away from academia. So social stakeholders, companies, policymakers, all kind of different actors that are coming out from academia and that give us different perspectives and different ways of thinking, different lens through which we see reality. And with the sort of skills and the sort of methods we are going to teach you in this master, you will be able to make a cake out of vegetables. So that means that you will be able to get different solutions, different unexpected solutions from challenges when you incorporate external views to the research process. And this is what you learn in the transdisciplinary research module. Last skill that you will learn is the social innovation skills. Social innovation module will be devoted into how to transform social problems and social challenges into social solutions through a transformative process, through a process in which all the stakeholders are represented in the different processes of the ideation process, and which generate solutions that will empower these social actors in order to make their own transformations. So this social innovation is always people-centered and based on different methods that you are going to learn through this phase 1. So these are mainly the main transversal skills that you will learn during the masters. And of course, together with these 3 modules, you will learn how to work in group, how to deal with new challenges, how to deal with new solutions. The first of the masters, the first phase. That in the previous edition we have just finished. So now they are in the second phase. They have just started the second phase, and I think I can speak, and Jay can also correlate with me, that it was a very nice experience having together with the students these 5 months in the phase 1.
Thank you, Sergio. So it's time to learn more about the phase 2, actually. So the water, food, and life and health modules. And I'll talk on behalf of my colleagues on water. So my name is Adam Todt. Welcome, everyone. I'm from ELTE, the Eötvös Loránd University based here in Budapest, Hungary. So when we are talking about water, we have 3 modules, and each module has its own challenge area. I would call it like an umbrella challenge. So for the first one, which is entitled Extremes in the Water Cycle and Their Complex Consequences, the main challenge area is climate and global change, as you can see here in the title. So here is an illustration of the climate and global change effects in drier and wetter conditions. But just to summarize these ideas, so the students will learn more about past and present extremes in the water cycle, all the social, political, economic, cultural, environmental, and biophysical consequences of these hazards. And of course, they need to solve complex challenges in extremes or natural hazards from a combination of different disciplinary perspectives around the world. So it's really inclusive. And of course, they need to cooperate with the impacted communities and various stakeholders. They need to understand their social, cultural contexts, motivations, action capacities, and also their goals and how to manage the risks of these extreme events in the water cycle. Our second module is somehow related to this first one, because how to adapt, how to mitigate these things. And the title is Adaptation Measures and Strategies in Water Management. And the main umbrella challenge here is water security, how to provide water, not only for the humans, but also for the nature, I mean the ecosystems. So here all the natural, social, economic, and legal issues will be discussed, which are related to water management. Not only in terms of quality, but also in terms of quantity challenges, of course, in, again, trans and interdisciplinary teams. And here I wanted to highlight 2 or 3 key concepts which are related to the water management. So one is the virtue of water, like I'm varying liters of water at this point, and I have a quite big water footprint because I'm consuming all the products which contains water. And then at the other hand, how to manage these water resources in a sustainable, green, and new way, and that's related to the so-called managed aquifer recharge, so how to replenish our water resources. And of course, we need to focus on the water, food, life and health nexus. So we need to talk about the ecosystem sustainability, the poverty reduction, gender equality, livelihood stability, agricultural systems, economic and health risk reduction, and of course, thereby reaching equality in access to water. And our last module is about the resilient cities, so water and urban environments. So the challenge area is urbanization. So we need to understand the growing urban centers and their different geographical and social contexts, all the technical, legal, social, historical aspects of these systems, the water quality, monitoring, water treatments, and wastewater management of these complex systems, even smart solutions, applying new technologies and innovations. And of course, we need to talk about water security and inequalities in access to water in urban environments, with special regard to migrations to and also from towns. And it can be caused also by the climate change. So our 3 modules are completely so-called charmified because we have some of these nice elements of the charm EU concepts, like CH for challenge-driven. So our students are working in small groups, tackling real-life sustainability issues. We have this so-called hackathon event for the students and the longitudinal challenge through the whole semester. So they are working in intercultural teams, and they are working in a close collaboration with stakeholders as well, coaches and mentors. A stands for accessible. So here what we meant is basically inclusivity. So students will work together with the UNESCO Chair on Water, Women Decision Making. This chair is located in Abidjan in Ivory Coast or Côte d'Ivoire. And here the main topic is the gender perspective of water management. R stands for research-based learning. So we try to bring in the most recent research papers, research topics, online tools, how to design water management strategies and interventions. And last but not least, M is for mobility. So we planned basically 2 field schools for the students where they can taste, test, and feel water itself, tackling real-life issues like one in Dublin and one in Montpellier in this edition. And now I think it's time to hand over to Victor, and Victor will give insights on the food modules.
Thank you very much, Adam. Welcome to everybody. In the next few minutes, I would like to talk about the food theme in the flexible phase of Charm EU. Next slide, please. The food theme revolves around the challenge of how can nutritionally and healthy food be accessible to everyone on the planet in a sustainable manner. Students who choose this specialization are asked to build inter-university teams and to define their own challenges. In order to facilitate their work, we offer them 5 so-called macro challenges on consumption of products of animal origin, ultra-processed foods, local and short supply chains, deforestation and other environmental issues related to food systems, as well as food-related health problems. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. The food theme is divided into 3 modules, namely the Food, Health, Environment Nexus, Sustainable Food Systems, Food System Transformation. These modules run sequentially, and the role of the first module is for the students, after they had identified the challenge, to present the state-of-the-art diagnosis of the challenge. Then they will study in the subsequent module how to evaluate, how to assess the same challenge. And in the third module, they will learn how to intervene, which type of transformations are needed, which solutions in order to solve the challenge proposed. Next slide, please. If you look at the modules, you can see that even each module has a structured build up. For example, in one of the weeks, we study only the health dimension of the chosen challenge. In another week, the environment dimension. In another week, the students will study the cultural, social, and economic impacts of the chosen challenge. In order to be able at the end of this module to present the diagnosis, the state of the art of their challenge in a complex way. As you can see, the supporting tools that we provide to students are lectures, tutorials, and panel discussions. And also you can see on the slides that we also, like Adam mentioned, we organized a blended intensive program, Student Mobility Weeks, when all students can come together in one university center to get insights about a hot topic related to food systems. Next slide, please. If you look at Module 2, in the Module 2, students will learn about how sustainability of food system has emerged and what is needed in order to evaluate the sustainability of food system in relation to the students' challenge. In case of this module, also in this academic year, we are planning a second Student Mobility Week. Next module, please. About Module 3, so we can say that after having the diagnosis and studied the indicators, Module 3 will focus on solutions from producer, consumer and citizen, as well as governance and justice side, in order to address three basic research questions: what to do, with whom, and how to ensure a fair transition in order to convert the food system practices in a sustainable way. And of course, in the center of this module is also to build up the system thinking. Next slide, please. As I said, in the case of the first two modules, we organize mobility weeks. One of the strengths of the third module is that we organize field trips. For example, you can see in these slides that currently this food team is ongoing in 4 university centers. The students will have the possibility to take part in 4 field trips in each location on different topics like agri-food governance, public sector, agri-food policy, private sector consumer decisions, and about the transformations needed in an uncertain future. You can also see that that in case of one of these field trips, we use an innovative virtual learning tool, namely the PEAK application. And we also give the students the possibility to organize one of the field trips by themselves. And at the end of each week, when they perform this type of field trip, they can come together and share their information from the 3 hybrid classrooms in form of workshops. Thank you very much for attention.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Katalin Felvinci, and I am the so-called facilitator of the Life and Health theme. And here you can see the main participants or contributors to the Life and Health thematic track. And we can continue with the next slide, please. Next slide, please. Oh, yes, thank you. Here on this slide, you can see just as in a nutshell how the Life and Health thematic track is working. We have one theme, Life and Health. We have 3 modules. We are using similar methods, and we will have different outputs at the end of each of the modules. The first module is Healthy Lives and Wellbeing. The second one is Health Challenges and Solutions. And the third one is Health Systems and Policies. And on the on the coming slides, you will see what will be the main topics under each of the modules. For instance, here in module 1, which is Healthy Lives and Wellbeing, you can see the structure of the module. Here you can see the main topics we are dealing with. And when we are speaking about the first module, I would say that the main message is that lifestyles are in the very center of this module, because lifestyle will have a tremendous impact on our health status. And we have to know a lot about the lifestyles of different social groups, different individuals, different cultures, different ethnic groups, different religions. So I think that lifestyle is the central motive of this whole module 1. And the main thing is that you will be in the position not to be given a challenge beforehand, but you will be in the position to be able to choose a problem area or a challenge, and then you can develop the main structure and the main parts of an intervention, and that intervention is supposed to be scientifically grounded, and it will have to be so-called evidence-based. And you will, by the end of the module, you will learn a lot about healthy lives and about the impact of lifestyles on the health status of people, and you will be developing skills. And I think that the main skills you will be developing, apart from those which are in the center of the whole program, that you will learn how to develop an intervention, a complex intervention, and you will also find the selling points of high quality evidence-based interventions. We can go for the next slide, which will be on the second module, which is health challenges and solutions. And the current slide is showing the program or the content of this module for the first edition, when students will be at 3 different locations, and where they are working with one general challenge, and it is how the world should deal with future pandemics. But you have to be aware of the fact that we are not dealing just with the COVID, because the COVID is the main theme, so to say. But I can say that it is just an excuse, because we would like to show you how different type of research approaches and perspectives can contribute to better understand pandemics and health challenges. And you will be working on different research topics in different research hubs at different campuses. Right now we have 3 different campuses, one in Dublin, one in Budapest, and one in Barcelona. But we don't know how many campuses and which campuses we will have during the second edition. And the structure of the second module is that you will start with getting an understanding in the literature, just to have a general understanding on what kind of research topics might be relevant for the challenge you are dealing with. Then you will be working on your own research projects, and at the end, within a transdisciplinary collaboration, you will produce some kind of a detailed research plan. And then you will continue with the third module, because these modules are presented in a sequential way. And the third module is dealing with policy and system approach, because whatever good intervention you might have, and whatever high quality research you are doing, it will depend on the system and on the policy if you are able to implement your research and your interventions. So the third module is dealing with how your interventions and research can be put on the policy agenda, and how you will be able to produce sustainable solutions from the perspective of the health system and from the perspective of a broader public health context. So that is the main, these are the main issues of life and health thematic track. And whilst we are implementing it, we will be working with very up-to-date pedagogical methods, which has already been mentioned beforehand. And we will be creating interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary teams. We will be dealing with issues which would require this transdisciplinary approach. And we will be participating in blended mobility actions, where we hope to be able to put together all the students who are working, who are ready to choose the life and health thematic track. So thank you very much. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, because I think that this is the most important slide of mine, where you can see the whole life and health theme, the whole conceptual framework of this life and health theme in a nutshell, when you can see that health is is covering almost everything. And it is global. It's dealing with global warming, or it is having perspectives on global warming, toxic waste, loss of biodiversity. We have to be aware of all the determinants of health in the 21st century. So this is, if you will have time to look into this slide, and you will see that it is the whole conceptual framework of the theme in a nutshell. So thank you very much for your attention.
Great, so I'll take over. Thanks, Kathleen. So I'm going to tell you a bit about the Capstone phase, the third phase. My name is Marianneke Vijgen. I'm assistant professor at Utrecht University, and I'm coordinating the Capstone phase. So as you can see, the masters consists of 3 phases. the preparatory phase, the phase 2 flexible phase that we just heard about, with the themes life and health, water and food, and then the final capstone phase. Next slide. So the capstone phase is a challenge-based thesis project. It has 30 EC and it's for 6 months. So you will work together with a team in 4 to 6 students, fellow students. So they can be from different themes also. And you work together with academic and extra academic actors on a real life sustainability challenge. So the idea is that students or extra academic actors, such as businesses, civil society, government agencies, international organizations, define a challenge together, a real world challenge. So something that is really presently pressing in society. And they analyze, evaluate, and then also try to address the challenge. So the idea is that the capstone has one sort of main client, an extra academic actor, who is interested in addressing the challenge. So it's really an inter and transdisciplinary challenge, interdisciplinary because it touches on different disciplines, and transdisciplinary because it requires collaboration with external actors. The idea is that you would be learning by doing. So you're addressing the challenge as you go. There are also skill development workshops that you would have. So kind of refreshment of the knowledge you gained in phase 1 and 2 with regard, for example, to research skills, but also sort of professional skills. So it's really also focusing on, next step in the future career. And this will be also done together with external actors. So external actors will also be engaged in these workshops. And the idea of the capstone, of course, you'll be assessed on individual analyses of the capstone, but also like of the challenge, but also of the final capstone product. And the capstone product can be useful for extra academic actors. So there can be different types of capstone projects. Think about maybe scientific reports or academic articles if you're really interested in really doing sort of research. But it can also be business models or policy recommendations. Maybe some infographics can help to for some external actors to address certain challenges. Maybe some methods or tools that governments or civil society need to have. The idea of the capstone is really that it's student-centered. So students are really encouraged to take responsibility of their own learning. And there's a variety of learning activities, and there's staff, academics, and extra academic community that function as a sort of support structure. And of course, you will also have your mentor, that is sort of the same mentor in the entire master's, where you can reflect also on what do you want to learn, what are your learning goals, what did you learn so far, and where do you still want to focus on in the capstone. So the capstone is really a sort of synthesis of prior learning, refining professional skills, but also building networks with external actors. Just to mention a couple of themes that you can envision to make it a bit more concrete. So we had the current challenges that students will take on from September onwards in the present master are still under development, but some ideas that have come up in earlier sort of world cafes where external actors presented their real life challenges are, for example, addressing poverty in India together with the UN Development Programme. There were also several actors that were interested in health issues. There were also some that were interested in food, health, and climate change, with some people from Ahold Delhaize, for example, so from more the business sector. And we also had some that were interested in youth engagement in the Sustainable Development Goals. So from Africa, we invited a youth SDG network. And the question was really, well, how can you involve youth, African youth, in making the Sustainable Development Goals a priority, and for youth also to be interested and to generate employability in Africa. So these are some of the sort of challenges that you can work on in the capstone. I think that's it for now. Over to mobility.
Thank you very much. And hi, everyone. My name is Lucy Erdei. I'm coming from Eötvös Loránd University, Hungary. And but I'm also representing a group of really enthusiastic colleagues who are also mobility experts and working on a scheme which might be really flexible, but also provides you with the possibility to travel to as many partner universities as possible. So what can you expect when we are talking about mobility in the master's program? So you as a Charmeu student will have the possibility to get access to the facilities and also to be part of an international community across the 5 universities in the 5 cities. I think it's really important to let you know that we have predefined mobility options that are integrated into the curriculum. What does it mean in practice? It means that mobility is a really important component of the program. Nevertheless, we are not just mobile for the sake of visiting new countries and cities, which is also a really important part of it, but we are also mobile to get the best learning experience out of it. Therefore, every mobility is led by the learning outcomes, what you can achieve, and therefore you can make your own learning or student journey based on the options what will be available for you. If you look at the graphic on the right side of the paper or the chart, sorry, so you can see that in the first phase, you will have the possibility to be contacted with all other peers of your cohorts through virtual exchange. And as my colleagues already mentioned, you're going to be taught through hybrid classrooms. So first of all, you will have the possibility to be together physically with international peers, but apart from that, you will also be connected throughout the ICT tools with others across the 5 institutions. I think this is a really important and appealing opportunity, which will be provided throughout the 2nd and the 3rd phase as well. But what else can you expect in the 2nd phase? You just heard about the 3 thematic tracks, what you will be able to choose from. And with the thematic tracks, you will also have the possibility to choose from the destination where you would like to study, because from the 2nd cohort on, phase mobility during the 2nd phase will be obligatory for all, which means that every student who will accept it to the 2nd edition will need to move to another partner university. Please note, I think it's really important that because we also want to secure the balanced number of students across the universities, we cannot guarantee that every single one of you will make it to the university what you prefer, but we try our best to give as much flexibility for everyone, and we also try to allocate everyone to the university where they want to go. But again, please note that it's important that you have first the academic drive to go somewhere and not the fascination by one of the cities, which I can completely understand. After this, you also have the possibility in the 2nd phase to participate in group blended mobilities. Blended mobility is a type of mobility in which there are virtual preparatory and or follow-up activities, and there is a short physical mobility to one of the countries. You can also ask, okay, how am I going to finance all these mobilities? The answer is that we are really dedicated to provide all of you with Erasmus Plus mobility grants for semester mobility and also for group mobility. We are going to provide you with more information upon admission to the program. So in the 3rd phase, you will also have the possibility to go and to participate in virtual exchanges, but apart from that, to go on individual phase mobilities. It's not going to be obligatory anymore, but it is going to be optional. So you have to move at least once in order to obtain your your degree, and we are now communicating with the and also trying to just review the experiences of the first pilot program, so that we will see how we can incorporate blended mobilities into the third phase. I think it's really important to mention here that we are also dedicated to offer you traineeship opportunities at one of our partner institutions or extra academic actors throughout traineeship mobility options. At the moment, we can say that we have a really good network with extra academic actors, so there are high chances that they would accept you for mobility and for also working there. So I think this is the mobility scheme in a nutshell, but I'm going to be here and I'm happy to answer your questions. And I hand over to the Inclusivity team.
Thank you so much and welcome. My name is Agnes Sarolta Fazekas. I am the leader of the Work Package 6 on inclusiveness. Next slide, please. Thank you so much. So one of our core values in Charm EU is inclusive, and we are creating an environment where inclusivity sits at the heart of the Charm EU, in the organizational culture, in the deliveries of the work packages, and also in the master program itself. You can read about our values and also information on inclusivity in the master program, how our program is inclusive. I also highlighted a few words from the statement, from the values, which it's important for all of you. So we are very strongly believe that diversity can take many forms, and we would like to create together an inclusive and safe environment where diversity is celebrated as a richness. And according to the master program, we would like to ensure that the support structures, the support facilities are also there for the students with various backgrounds, lived experiences, and access needs. Also, in terms of the open call for the new master program, we have this information available, and please don't hesitate to contact us. Regarding the admission process, there is also an inclusivity element in the application form, and you can read on this website under /global challenges/inclusion. Next slide, please. Thank you so much. So I put here a picture which as a road into the far away, and this symbolizes that the 21st century's higher education is changing as is the diversity of the student and staff population is diversifying, and the numbers of those individuals are increasing. So what is the new challenge ahead of the 21st century's higher education on a global scale? That the teaching and learning environment and also organizational cultures need to be innovative, need to be inclusive. So Charm EU is on this road, and also wants to be very inclusive towards this diversified population in higher education. Next slide, please. Thank you so much. So I really love to highlight that inclusion is interwoven into the DNA of Charm EU. Of course, I always say that it's a step-by-step road. So what we would like to achieve, that inclusivity is interwoven into the teaching and learning environment. And this is also under the educational principles and under the educational guidelines as well. And our documentations are already available under the toolkit, so you can read about how we understand inclusive education within Charm EU. Next slide, please. Thank you so much. So the collaboration, how we are working with the different organizational units, with the Charm EU when it's about student services, when it's about the joint virtual administrative office, when it's about mobility, when it's about finances. So we want to make sure that you have your access and participation needs are met according to the capacity and resources of CharmEU. I always highlight this, that it's no misunderstanding. Next slide, please. So I would like to just highlight that please don't hesitate to contact us. We have an official email address, but if there is any technical barrier with it, please don't hesitate to contact my email address. It's also available on the CharmEU website. And our how you say, collaboration for all of you is that we are creating this inclusiveness all together. It's also everybody's job, and I'm very, very happy to say that CharmEU is a very open community to learn this journey on inclusion, and we are looking forward to having you in the next summer or in the next edition of the master program. And I hand into the next presenter. Thanks.
Hi everyone, I'm here in the hybrid classroom in Barcelona with Rusha and Marina, who are two students of the Masters, and they will be happy to answer any questions you may have at the end of the session. First of all, as my colleagues did, I would like to present myself. I'm Eugenia, and I've been working in CharmEU for the last 2.5 years, preparing the Masters, along with my colleagues who study in the other partner universities. We have been working for students' rights in this program, and now we would like to emphasize those aspects that we believe might be of your interest as you are future students. The first one, as you can see, is a unique academic education for your curricula. Taking part in CharmEU will give you unique training in your curricula that just a few people in Europe will have. So this is a plus in our training with very low competition in the short run. It's a unique program. Also, as my colleagues mentioned, the syllabus has been created from a multicultural base, and this is we take this as another advantage of CharmEU. And we think that all these are huge added value that most master's degree unfortunately don't have, but CharmEU has definitely included. Also, we would like to highlight that CharmEU takes care about the most relevant 21st century topics. The program has been designed from a modern point of view, and it bears in mind the skills that you'll be needing in the future jobs. As also my colleagues commented, all of us, it's very possible that we end up working in sustainable jobs that might not be created yet. So it's very important that we have an education, a training that supports this demand in the labor market in the future. As we will encounter with all kinds of challenges, different backgrounds of different educational fields are needed in CharmEU. So don't hesitate to contact if you're interested. There's for sure a place for you here. And also, as you know, firms, governments, and institutions are slowly taking a turn towards a greener economic models and lifestyle. So we're sure that in the future there will be demand for jobs and sustainability. Also, I would like to highlight what Lucy was saying about mobility. We think that mobility is always a very good path to do in our academic career. And an example of that is that the students you will be able to choose to which city of the 5 that come from CharmEU you would prefer to do the modules or phases. So we think that it's very important to highlight that besides the traditional mobility, there's also the virtual one and the blended, as Lucy said and explained very well. And I would also like to highlight that inclusivity is also in the spotlight, and it will be guaranteed in all 5 universities. So again, we would like to encourage you as students to, regarding any condition you may have to come into CharmEU. There's for sure a place for you here. And then this is a very important topic when we talk about mobility, especially in the physical one, which is how to finance it. We would like to say that both CharmEU and also from the Erasmus Plus program, there will be grants available. And as I was saying, especially for the physical one, which is naturally the most costly one. We would also like to talk about the innovation in all fields. As you know, there is a new evaluation system which will have a 360 degrees vision of our performance as students and will take into account all the activities that we'll develop. Here, I would like to clearly explain that there is a difference from the classical masters or programs that we know, you will not be evaluated just in a single final exam, which for whatever reason you can have a bad performance, and that is the whole outcome that the teachers take into account. Here, a lot of variables will be taking into account when they will be evaluating you, the professors. So we think this is a very good thing for students. Also highlighting teamwork, that will be vital. As you know, once we step out of college at firms and institutions, we will work in teams. So we think it's very good that we do that already when we're studying. So we know we have experience and we have techniques in how to do teamwork. And then, for all these reasons, the evaluation system is something very new. It has been tailor-made for us, and I think that this is something that it's very good for students. And finally, I would like to highlight also the fusion that we have in CharmEU between the theory and practice. For sure, this is not a program that you will study only the theory and then forget about real life. This is not the case. You will be used to mix both theory and practice, since you will need to go into action to solve the global challenges. So all the theory that you learn, you will apply it straight away with help and supervision of experts and firms. And finally, just saying that as you can see, there has been a group of students who has been working very hard to put students' rights in the very center, and we have succeeded in doing so. So just wanted to let you know that if you have any question, doubt, insecurity, you can reach us, you can reach me if you have any question. I'll be here, I'm a student as well, and if you need anything, we'll be here. Thank you very much.
Great. I see we have some student testimonials there as well. Does Marina or Rucha want to add anything, or just available for questions?
Yes. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Just we're here and we're happy to help with any questions that you might have. We also say that we're now in Barcelona, as Eugenia said. We are doing different tracks, and we're coming from different universities. So in phase one, I was in Budapest, and Rusha was in Montpellier. Feel free to ask any questions, and we'll be happy to help.
And also, I'm an international student, non-EU student. So if anyone has any questions about that or anything visa related that I might know an answer to, please do ask.
Great, thank you, Rusha. We move on then to Connor. I think, is it yourself that's going to do admissions?
Yeah, thanks very much, Catherine. Good evening, everyone. My name is Connor Spillane, and I'm the CharmEU project manager here at Trinity College. I'm also the head of the Joint Virtual Administrative Office, and that's the office that provides support to the master's program, where we have an administrator in each of the university campuses. So I'm here to speak to you about the admissions process, which you will undertake if you decide to apply for our course. The first thing to say is you've heard already that the student-centered, and because of that, we think the admissions process is laid out very clearly on the CharmEU website. Obviously, we've gone through the process last year, and we worked hard at improving things, and we worked with the students to make sure the students last year who had undertaken this application process to improve things. We also have a very clear visual on the website detailing the 6 steps of the application process. There's also a very handy checklist which you can download from the website. Just on that, I would say that the application process, I guess, this is not a typical course, so the application process is not your standard application process. Please allow plenty of time for completion of the application process. There's a video to be prepared, an essay, personal statements. So please make sure you allow plenty of time to complete the whole process. You can see here in the slide at the moment, there's a deadline for applications, which is on Tuesday, the 8th of March. And you see there that there's a reference to this is the deadline for round 1. This is because a second period for applications may open in April if all the places on the course haven't been allocated. So there's no guarantee that there'll be a second round of applications. So we'd strongly encourage everyone to apply during the round 1 process. Obviously, you need to be a graduate to apply, or in some cases, you'll be applying while you're in your final year of your current undergraduate program. This is fine, but you must have completed your studies before beginning our masters. There's also a specific requirement for French students, whereby they must have an additional 30 ECTS completed. And again, more detail available on the website. Has come up in the chat about language requirements. Again, these are very clearly explained on the website, but essentially all students must have attained a C1 level in English or an equivalent by the time they begin the masters. There are exemptions, of course, such as having completed your undergraduate studies through English, but please note that we will need some supporting documentation in these instances. Selection criteria. So applications are reviewed and scored to a maximum of 100 points. The categories in which these scores are allocated you can see here, and again there's a more detailed breakdown of each category on the website. Applications are reviewed by an experienced team of academic staff who are familiar with allocating scores as per an agreed matrix. Important to know that any borderline cases, and they are students who score between 50 and 60 points in their application, these applications will be reviewed for a second time. So again, we're leaving nothing to chance there, and as I said, all these borderline cases will be reviewed. Again, important to know here as well that applicants need a minimum score of 60 points to be considered for a place on the masters. So what this means is that if there are students with higher score, you may not be guaranteed to secure a place on the course with 60 points. There may be 100 students with higher scores, and therefore not everyone on 60 points will be guaranteed a place on the course. 60 points, you're eligible for a place in the course. So just to provide that distinction there. Next slide, please. So another important element of the application process is ranking the university in which in your order of preference for where you would like to study in phase 1. Obviously, we understand that this is a difficult decision, so we encourage students to try and make an informed one by researching each of the universities in terms of your specific needs and requirements. And as a representative of Trinity College, I ask that you don't include nice sunny weather as one of your requirements, as that would probably reflect poorly on us. Regarding that decision, it's binding decision. The crunch decision on where you spend phase 1 is actually made at a later point in the process, after initial admission to the program and during the registration process, when another information event by the partner universities is held. Naturally, we try to ensure that each student is allocated to their first choice university for phase 1. However, this isn't always possible as a number of factors are taken into consideration when allocating places. Again, we've worked hard with current students to ensure that this is done as fairly as possible. And of course, there's always a possibility of being placed in one of your higher ranked universities in a later phase, depending on your option of study or your theme of study. Just for reference, I believe around 75% of current students got their first option. We move on to fees. Again, you can see the information provided there. We've tried to set them at a level which makes the course open and a possibility for as many people as possible. It's important to remember that these fees cover the entire 18-month program and can be paid in 2 installments. For example, this year students could split the fees into a €2,000 and €1,000 payment. Students, the next section here is relating to available grants, and students on the course are eligible for various EU and national grants, but there is a very detailed list available on the website, and that's where you should go to find out more information on what grants are available. We also provide a limited number of Charm EU grants which are available to students who meet specific criteria or find themselves in particular circumstances. Again, a process is outlined in detail on the website, but needless to say, any information provided by applicants here as part of this procedure will be treated with the utmost confidentiality. That's a kind of brief overview of the admissions process. Obviously, you'll have some questions. We've seen that in the chat. But if we don't get to answer some of your questions tonight, we are actually compiling a list based on our interactions here and queries we're receiving from applicants by email in order to complete an FAQ section, which we'll hopefully put up on the website in the coming days. One final thing, you'll be informed of your outcome. If you're in round 1, you'll be informed of your outcome of your application in mid-April. But in the meantime, if you have any questions or queries, address here on this slide, that is a shared email address where all 5 JVAO office members have access, and we can distribute your query accordingly. Thank you for your time and best of luck with your application. Thank you.
Oh, fabulous. Thank you, Connor. That's great. Wow, such an amount of questions in the chat. Fabulous to see the interest, and as I expected, I mean, you know, this is really important in terms of people's lives moving forward, and, you know, the travel and the fees and the paperwork and the documents. We've had a lot of questions and answers in the chat, but I'm going to open the floor now. And we have captured the chat. And as Connor said, we will have a frequently asked questions section on our website based on the questions we're seeing in the chat. So if your question isn't answered tonight, it will be in the frequently asked questions FAQs in the website. So I'll open the floor. Would anybody like it's great to see we've had over 60 people attending. Would anybody like to open their mic, any of the potential applicants, and ask any questions that weren't answered? I see there were some questions there. I see a hand up. I'm sorry, I'm not too sure whose hand is up, but I do see a hand up.
Mine. My name is Leah. Hi.
Hi, Leah. It's lovely to see your hand up. How are you?
I'm fine. Very
Good.
interesting Q&A session. I just haven't understood where do I find myself in phase 3? Like if I don't decide to go to another exchange in phase 3, will I be placed at the same university where I stay at the first phase, or where am I?
Okay, so mobility between phase 1 and phase 2 is required. So you must move. You do not, so you can stay then in your location for phase 3, or you can move again if you wish. So one mobility is required, and that's between phase 1 and phase 2. So then you can stay where you are in phase 2, or if you wish, you can move.
Ah, okay, perfect.
Lucia, would that be correct?
Yeah.
Yes, I just wrote a detailed answer in the chat, so I'm going to send it just for clarification.
Perfect. Thanks.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Look forward to seeing your application. Anybody else? Yes, so student ambassadors, somebody asked about that, and Marichel has just put Rucha and Marina's contact details, emails, their Gmails in the chat there for student ambassadors, because I understand you might want to know from a student perspective. I see another hand up. Who have we got? Katerina and then Sophia. Katerina.
Hi.
Great. Hi, Katerina.
Hi, my name is Katrina. I wanted to ask about the English requirement, since it says that you would be exempt if you live in a English-speaking country. I'm Maltese and I live in Malta, and English is a national language here. Would a copy of my passport be enough?
So who would like to answer that? Who can answer that for me? Marichelle or Connor?
Yeah, sorry, my connection is bad, so I had my camera off. But just to say, again, you know, once you explain clearly your reasons for your exemption and supporting documentation like your Maltese passport, we can make a decision on that. But again, look, I'm reluctant to kind of say yes or no, but it does sound like you would meet the requirements for an exemption. But again, until we can review your documentation, we can't make a decision on that. And having said that, if we would engage with you as well if further documentation or clearer supporting documentation was required, we'd work with you on that.
Does that answer your question, Katrina?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay, and remember, we want people in. We're not trying to keep people out, right? So we'll work with you. We're not working against you. So, you know, anything we can help with, let us know. We'll move to Sophia Healy. You're second person with a hand up.
Yes, I apologize for the hoarseness of my voice, but I wanted to ask how strong the emphasis is on governance within the program, because it is an EU-funded master's, right? So I'm currently between another master's that's focused like solely on sustainability governance. So I'm wondering how strong it is within this program, because you did say there were different stakeholders involved. But yeah, I was just curious.
Okay, is Jake still there from phase one? Perhaps might be best to talk about content in phase one.
Yeah, now the sustainability module wouldn't be my module that I teach on, and Billy Carolan is not here. But I know that we do touch on some governance issues, but it wouldn't be the main focus. So it is a bit more diverse than you know, explicitly on governance issues. So although it has a component, it wouldn't be the main focus. I think is probably the best way to do.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Sophia. I mean, if you're interested in governance, that's something you can look at within a challenge or within your capstone. You know, so it depends on your own interest, but it's, you know, governance is just part of a module as opposed to a full module. I mean, I see Catalan there in Life and Health, where we'd be looking at quite a lot of governance and policy documents and systems. So it can be part of modules, but it's not a module as such.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Any questions in the chat we haven't answered? Does anybody see anything? Is there anything in the chat we haven't answered? There's somebody here, perhaps coming from the US, applying for federal graduate school loans when applying for CHARM. And do we have any advice for which universities should I put on my FAFSA loan application? That's the federal loan application. CHARM EU is not listed as an option. So this is an international student coming from America, so they probably have to put maybe their phase one, perhaps the phase one. Would that be the option? Your first choice? That might be mine. Connor, do you have anything to add there?
I think there's only there'd be a limited list of recognized universities in the FAFSA loan application. So I think you'd be restricted. I mean, it depends on whether or not any of the 5 universities are on that approved list. If there are, you know, if one or two of the university partners are on that approved list, then the suggestion would be to kind of include that as your university. But again, we'd need to work with you on that. And I know we had students from the US last year who or applicants from the US who face the same issue. But again, we'd work with you on that.
And Conrad, I wrote the answer in the chat already.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
In any case, they can use the University of Barcelona as responsible of admissions and registration. So this is the best try if they need to do it quickly.
Excellent. Okay, we have Jody, then Lawrence, and then Didi. So Jody Cash.
Hi, thank you.
Hi.
I was wondering if in phase 2, if someone's interested in more than one of those tracks, is it possible to take some of the classes in 2 of the themes, or do you have to remain solidly in 1?
You have to, it is organized along themes, so you can, you would have to stay within 1. But I mean, if you look at life and health and water, I mean, they're so related, or life and health and food, if you have an interest, you could, you can maybe look at different challenges in your related interests, but you must choose a single theme. But then you can, look at the challenges that interest you within that theme. That would be my way of doing that, but you must choose a theme, yes.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome, Jody. Lawrence Serenhen.
Yes.
Hi,
Yes,
Lawrence.
well, I have 2 questions actually.
That's okay.
Can you please tell us how many applicants did you have last year? That's my first question.
How many applicants and how many eventually arrived? Well, we have 100 places available. So, I mean, at the moment, there's 260 inquiries just from last year. So it is quite popular. Does that answer your question? We have 100 places available across the 5 universities.
All right. And about the 3 teams, I'm not sure you spoke a lot about energy issues.
Interesting.
Tell me about that.
Yes, that's interesting. That is an area that we're looking at developing in terms of our next round of funding. Who would be a good person to take that question for me? Jake? Yeah.
Right, sure. So we currently don't have it as a theme, but we are exploring it as a possibility for a theme. But that won't be for September, and that would be in future iterations of the program. But we do realize it's a big area. Now energy can come into things like water, for example, through hydropower and so on. So there might be opportunities for energy topics to come into some of the other programs, or maybe if you're doing vertical farming or something like that, you might need an energy source or something like that. So there might be other opportunities for energy, but as a topic, we are looking at it as a theme in future years, but just not for September, fortunately.
And remember, we can also bring in external actors, to a challenge, who could be in the energy industry, related to the challenge that you're interested in looking at.
Yeah, like in a way that sort of builds a little on the last question of, choosing one theme is, the Capstone are quite broad and there's some flexibility in the challenges that you engage with there. So if you have an idea that you think needs 2 themes, maybe that's an opportunity to, in phase 1 or at the start of phase 2, to network with your peers who are maybe doing one of the other themes and actually start working together about putting together an idea for a challenge. And you could even integrate things like energy. So there is opportunities for students to direct the challenges, but it will involve some legwork on your behalf and your own interests and things like that to drive them in that direction as well. So I'm not saying it's a trivial thing to do, but we're trying to open the flexibility to allow you to do that.
So it goes back to being student-centered and trying to meet you where your interests are. I am conscious of the time. Lawrence, did that answer your question?
Yeah,
Is that
thank
okay?
you very much. Thank
You're
you.
very welcome. And I'm going to give the last question to yourself there, Daidi. You've got your hand up, and lovely. You're going to get the last word. It's for you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the presentation, first of all. My question is a more practical one. In the list of documents to be submitted, the last one is inclusivity, and it says there, if you tick this box, you will be contacted by a quality and diversity officer. I don't really know what type of document this is, like the inclusivity document. Is this something we need to write about specifically, or how does this work?
Agnes, I'll let you take this one.
Thank
Agnes'
you.
great
Thank you
experience
so
here.
much. Yeah, so that I am the contact person for this thing, and basically what is happening that you tick the box on the application form. We will be notified that you tick the box, and we will be getting in touch with you via an email, and we will provide you an opportunity to share your experience. And then, according to this, we will also notify the academic board on how to proceed with your inclusivity requirement. And of course, this documentation is connected to your circumstances. And we also want to make a very human-centered approach model, which we did with the last year students, that we not only assess your document or supporting document that you may add, but we would like to have with you, whether it's a video call or whether if it's an audio recording, where you can better elaborate your circumstances. So it's much more a human-centered approach to have this. I hope it helps to understand the process.
Completely. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome, and thank you for asking the question. Okay, I'm going to bring the meeting to a close because I'm conscious that it is late and it's been a long day for everybody. Look, we are delighted that so many people joined us today. I hope you all make an application. You know, I'm excited by this Masters. You know, the fact that we're all here at this time of the evening shows the commitment. Like, I was just thinking when people were starting up, the commitment the staff have to this program is just incredible because it reaches, it's their passion, you know, and just the team that we have involved. I've been in Trinity College, I don't know, 13, 14 years and 10 years in a maths department before that. And this is honestly one of the best teams. The commitment that the staff have is just phenomenal. And you can see it within then the student body as well. Like the fact that we have the students sitting there in Barcelona, you know, at this hour of the evening. So thank you to the students as well. We have a staff student council, you know, we're very student centered, but I just want to say, look, I hope you all apply. We'd be delighted to be able to offer you all places, but we have to wait and see. But do apply within the time because we have had a lot of inquiries for the people that came here tonight and stayed this hour and a half. So that shows commitment. So I'll close it on that note and thank you all very much. And thank you to Nicole for organising it. So great. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. And the recording is available on the website. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Good evening.
Bye.